everyone. Thank you for coming to Snow Lake County. This month we have Terry Knight from the Record B. He's the outdoor guy.
Yeah, the writer. Yeah.
And we're lucky to have him. The refreshments are provided by the Friends of the Library. They're a great group. If you want to join them, I will have some information on the table back there. There's also, you can sign up for our email to know what events are coming up, or you can pick up a newsletter at the desk. And we don't have July's ready yet, but hopefully soon. And also there's a program evaluation if you want to tell us what you liked or what you'd like to see in the future. So without further ado, we'll let Terry take it away.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, most of you know me. I'm the outdoor writer for Record B, but I also write for a number of magazines. I've been doing this for 30 years. Actually, I'm an engineer by trade, but Bay Nature, I've written a number of stories for them. Rollers Unlimited, Sports Field, I was over at ESPN. I was a writer for ESPN for a while too. So, but what's always fascinated me about Lake, I've lived in Lake County since 1987. What's always fascinated me about Lake County is its history. And so what we're going to talk about today, and you can always interrupt me, I do it very informal, I do a lot of humor and stuff too, is I'm not going to talk about fishing in the lake or nothing like that. I'm going to talk about the mountain, the lake, and the people, because what's fascinated me about Lake County are the individuals that lived here back in the 1800s. And that era. They were tough individuals. In fact, I got to tell you a real quick story before I get started on it. Here about a month or two, a couple months ago, I was in Library Park. I'm down there all the time anyway, and this elderly gentleman came up to me, and he said, he introduced himself, and he was born on a Gwinnett Ranch, which is, that was Lily Langtree who lived there and stuff like this. And he got talking, and he grew up there as a little boy, and his dad worked there as a worker, and they lived on the ranch, and he said, his dad was a drinker and heck raiser and fighting all the time, and he said they'd go to Bartlett Springs, you know, that's the one that just burned down. He said there one day he was sitting there, he was about 10 or 12 or whatever, and his dad was sitting there drinking beer, drinking maybe a little too much, and this guy at the next table was using the worst language in the world. He was just nasty. And his dad was sitting there staring at him. Finally his dad said, "That's it." Jumped up and he said over to the one over the guy, he said, "You say one more cuss word, I'm going to knock you right on your butt." He didn't say butt, because I won't swear, but he went over and sat down. The guy came over and apologized, said, "I want to apologize." He said, "I was out of line, I've been drinking too much." He said, "I'd like to buy you a drink," and introduce myself. He said, "I'm Frank Sinatra." And he frequented that, but I thought that was a hilarious story, because he was a drinker and stuff like that. And I thought that was so neat. My background is I was born in northern Minnesota in 1936 in a cabin, actually. My dad was a logger. We were 25 miles from town, and about 4 miles from our nearest neighbor. And my sister delivered me, because there was no doctor within 35 miles, and the midwife that would have normally been there was sick. And so my 12-year-old sister delivered me. She was the oldest in the family. So that's how times were in those days, you know, type thing. And it was and my mother was born in Yugoslavia and came over here when she was 6 or 7, 8 years old, and her father died soon after of tuberculosis, and her mother got killed in an accident. And she lived in a town called Grand Rapids, which is a pretty good-sized town, and the Gum family adopted her. Now, you know who the Gum family is? Judy Garland's family. She was Judy Garland's nanny, my mother was, for a number of years, till the Gum family moved away. She was like 13, 14 then. My mother wasn't, and another family took her in. So she took care of Judy Garland when they were young. So my background has been in the outdoors. I've actually graduated from Baylor University with an engineering degree, and I've worked around the world. I lived in Norway for 4 years. I lived in Morocco, Libya, and Vietnam as a civilian over there during the war. I worked over there. So I've got to travel around a lot and I enjoy traveling, not now I don't do overall, but just to enjoy life. When I came to Lake County, I was just amazed at this county here. I mean, we're sitting on a lake over here that's 2 million years old or older. oldest lake in the world, possibly. I've been out on this lake many times with scientists, and they all say it's 2 to 2.2 million years old. And the mountain oversees the lake. And what's unusual about this lake is that most lakes only live to be 100,000 years, and they fill up with silt and become landmass. This lake has stayed virtually the same, except actually it was 2 lakes at one time, more or less, where the Narrows is. That was actually another lake. But they all considered it one lake. And it's always been a shallow lake. And the reason the silt, according to scientists have told me, because I've been out on a lake with Norman Lear, who was one of the primo scientists on this lake, he was telling me the reason this lake doesn't fill up is because there's 2 things happening out on the lake. One is that there's tremors on the bottom of the lake all the time, mini volcanoes, earthquakes, I mean, many earthquakes, and that shifts and the silt hasn't got a chance to build up, it goes down the tracks. And the other thing, the lake is tipping a little bit all the time, so that the same way, the silt doesn't form here. At one time, this lake drained into the Russian River. And about 150,000 years ago, I believe, is when the big landslide at Blue Lakes shut the lake off from that area, and now it flows down Cache Creek towards the Sacramento River, become part of it. So, but this lake is so unique in the sense that when you look at this lake here, being 2 million years old, that's before man walked on Earth. This lake was here, and it was, except for the houses around it, it was virtually look what it is like right now. I mean, can you imagine? Just imagine that. I put my hand in a lake sometimes and just shake it just to get that weird feeling because it's that old a lake on it. And it is like I say, and we all complain about the algae in the lake and stuff like this. Algae is going back over 1 million years in this lake, like it is. And so algae is nothing new. Long before people were around here, the first Pomo Indians moved in this lake around 11 to 12,000 years ago, and that's when they started living around the lake like this, and been there ever since.
Where did they come from?
They came from different tribes. There's 7 tribes in the county, and they came from different areas in California. They drifted across. Partly, I don't really know way back when they first started where they came from, the Pomo Indians. They're basically they did do some hunting, but they weren't known as hunters. You know, different tribes of Indians were hunters, and others were they fished a lot, and they raised their own food, so they're very self-sufficient on this lake. And the lake has always had tules on it. There's an algae, a form of algae in this lake called Libya, and you've all seen it. It's long and stringy, and it looks like little ropes in the water. That goes back over 2 billion years. It's the oldest living organism in the world. And we still have it out here right now. In fact, I just saw some yesterday out on the lake. So when you're down
didn't bring it in, did you?
No, but if you walk along the lakeshore, you will see this.
It looks like
It looks like a little rope, a little string on it, and it actually gets together and it forms mats in the end.
Oh.
But when you pick one up like that, it gives you a weird feeling how old it is, you know, and stuff. So this lake right now, the native fish in the lake, there's 10 species right now of native fish in the lake. 10 that we know of right now. There's 21 introduced species in the lake that man has brought in, so there's a big difference, you know. And I'm sure you've heard recently about the hitch problem where they're worried about the hitch becoming extinct in the lake and stuff like that. Actually, I was out with the University of California team here, 3 years or 4 years ago, and they were driving down the lake, putting the hose down and bringing up bottoms, silt bottoms, and these scientists could look at it and go back all these years by them. And they were telling me they found hitch scales at almost 70 to 80,000 years back. They were here in this lake, you know, so. It's just like I say, it's a fascinating lake. And overlooking it is Mount Konocti. When I walk around, I do a lot of walking in the evening and stuff, I tell these people that are sitting there in the library park, I said, that's $1 million view. And for years, Mount Konocti, you know, is a volcano, it's still active. And every one of you has been to the state park, I'm sure. And as you drive into the state park, you see these big boulders along the road there. Can you imagine what that must have been like thousand years when the mountain erupted and those boulders came crashing down. That was probably over a period of weeks or days. That must have been just fantastic. I mean, it would have been a sight to see, you know. Because I know when I drive through the main part of the park and you look up on the right, the big boulders are all the way up there like that. And the way this mountain actually erupted, they did erupt initially like a regular volcano, and they found ashes as far as New York from here. They figured. But most of the time on the eruptions, it was like you squeezing a tube of toothpaste, and it comes out and just flows down. That's why you see these rocks around here like this. And the mountain itself is still active. It's an active volcano, but the last time was, I think, about 12, 15,000 years ago it erupted. It first erupted almost 300,000 years ago on the mountain here. So to me, it's a fascinating mountain. I go up it all the time, and if you ever get a chance, go up it because it'll drive you. A friend of mine, Ed Groves, who passed away about 5-6 months ago, he was part of the research team that went in the mountain for the caves in 1991, 92, 93. And we'd go together and give talks on the mountain. So he talked about going in that mountain. There are 7 caves they know of it there. And they're caved in, you know, the entrance was. And he always tells the one story that they had a jackhammer that he ran. It took 2 weeks banging away with his jackhammer. And he created a hole about this big. And so he was the first guy in, and he crawled in and drug some lights in with him. And when he got in there in the opening, he couldn't see anything, and he yelled for him to turn the floodlight on. He started up the generator. It lit up there, and he said it was like being in a giant auditorium in there. It just blew his mind. He said he couldn't believe it, how big it was and how high it was. And in the middle was a vent with hot air coming up from it, from the active volcano down at the bottom of it. And he said it was just, but they went into other caves too, and which was funny. He said one cave they did the same. They dug in there, and there was a guy who used to be called, I think it was Leroy Thomas, that lived here in Lake County for years over in Finley. And he'd been passed away quite a few years. They got in there and did the same thing, and there it said Leroy Thomas, 1934. He'd been in there when it was open, and he put his initials in there. And they were found other initials in there too. But the first cave they went in, they lowered a rope down, a string kind of a rope, 1,000 feet. They never hit the bottom. Wow. And the reason is because, and what they claim on the mountain is that there's a hidden lake at the bottom of the mountain. And there's, according to Indian lore, sightless fish that live in there. But actually what the scientists I've talked to believe the lake is there because the mountain, no water runs off that mountain. And I've been up there when it's just pouring rain and you stand there in the road and not a drop of water is coming down. And the scientists, what they did one year, they picked the rainiest day of the year, and they took about 3 teams of scientists and sent them around the mountain to walk. And there was no water coming off the mountain. But when
it was raining, but there was no
runoff, like waterfalls? Or?
It was just going right down in the mountain. That's where they come with this hidden lake down there. And when they got down to the bottom of the mountain, there was flooding down here at the bottom of the mountain from the roads around the edge of the mountain. So that showed you there was that water was just being absorbed down there. So which is really, that's what makes us so unique, this mountain like this. And he was telling me, and of course the Indian lore is that there's evil spirits on the mountain after dark. They won't go up, even today most of the Pomo Indians will not go up on the mountain after dark. And so this Ed Groves is telling me, he was a character anyway, he said, I was going to figure out what was going on. He said, so I told my workers, they come off the mountain at night. He said, I'm going to sleep up there tonight. I want to see what it's like. So he took a sleeping bag and he crawled in a little crevasse there. And he said, during the night, the wind came up and he said, it went, you scare him so bad. He said, I slept 5 minutes. I said, I'd never, ever do that again. And so, because that made him believe, you know, he was a scientist, that made him believe that there was spirits on that mountain. And the funniest story was, and this is just Indian myth, which I love, they had, part of what the research team would do, they would bring in Indian elders to talk to them, because the Pomos are very accurate on their oral history. And this guy dressed the group, and this was an elder in his late 80s, I guess, and he said that these 3 Indians were deer hunting up there. And this is just a story, but I love stories. It was in August and it was hot. And they had a canteen, they had their rifles, and they had a canteen full of water. Well, they had stayed up there too long, and they ran out of water, and it was getting dark. And they didn't want to come off the mountain, walk down the mountain, so they were going to spend the night. So they climbed in a little hole together and fell asleep, and they woke up. The rifles were gone, the canteens were full.
Oh my.
So called spirits, you know. And I love that story. It's just a story. It's not even probably, you know, obviously it's not true. We did a radio program together here a couple times here on the local radio station, and we had all these people call in about the aliens that live on the mountain. You know, they always say, "Did you guys see the aliens up there? You see, because they claim there's aliens that live, the little people live in the caverns and stuff like this." And anyway, one guy called in and he was real serious. He said, "Okay, here's the deal, guys." He said, "I have lunch with the aliens about twice a month up there on the mountain, and I'd like to invite you guys to come up and have lunch with us." Of course, we never did. I wish I would have tried it.
Yeah.
But I mean, so there's so much mystery on this mountain that I myself, in the evenings when I'm down at Library Park, I look across that mountain. I don't want none of these solved. I want that to remain a mystery mountain for Lake County, because that's the big part of Lake County, is that mystery you have in there. Because originally, see, the Indians threw painted sticks in these, because they could get, years ago they got into caverns because they were open, and these things would come out in the lake in Soda Bay and stuff like this. They'd pop up is what they claimed, and I believe that. It's probably true, because they went down. Where this Ed Groves lived, before he died, he lived in Soda Bay, and this was just 10, 12 years ago. PG&E executive with his friend had bought a house next to him, between him and the lake. Drilled a pump well in there, almost 100 feet. When Duncan pumps, put the pump in and stuff, and they measured the water temperature at 140 degrees.
Wow.
And that was hot water coming off the mountain, up in the well, I guess. So that, and of course, we all know about Soda Bay bubbling up all the time on it. So this is what's fascinating about this. You can't find this anywhere in the world, something like this mountain and this lake that we have that's so old and everything on it. And one of the things I like about when I hike up the mountain is Mary Dowden's cabin, and we've all heard of that. I'm sure she lived past about, not quite up the top of Wright's Peak, and I've been there a number of times. The cabin's still there, the county owns it, and it's fenced off, but you can walk around it. This was in 1877, she lived there by herself. And every day, and her daughter and her son-in-law lived in Lakeport. And this is back before there were cars, and every day she would take, at 2 o'clock on a sunny day, take a mirror and flash it. And they would see that flash in Lakeport and flash back to her, that meant she was okay. If they didn't see the flash, then they would take horses and go up and check on her and stuff. And she died up there too. She was and stuff. So it's a fascinating thing. And you even get up around her cabin, you get a kind of an eerie feeling, because you figure, how could this woman live alone up there? They trucked water up to her in the summer, and then later on they built cisterns that for water running off the house, because during the winter would fill up these cisterns, that the water she used just to stay alive there and stuff, you know. So I mean, everything about this mountain has got things going on up there that if you've never been up there, it's an easy place, even if you don't want to do the hike, because you can drive up to the parking lot. You go out down Main Street of Kelseyville and turn left to Konocti Road by the high school and follow it all the way up. It's a blacktop for the first couple of miles, then turns into a very good gravel road. I go up in my car a lot too. And go up to the parking lot. If you don't want to do the walk, you can just stand in the parking lot. You see most of the lake and everything like this. If you want to walk up to Wright's Peak, and I've done that many times, you can actually see Mount Shasta. You can see parts of the Sacramento Valley. It's breathtaking up there. The county for several years, ran buses up there. Yeah. And it was ideal for elderly people, tourists and stuff to come in here, but then they had gotten a lawsuit with the Fowlers that owned the property. It's not Kathy Fowler, it's another Fowler family. And they stopped the buses during the lawsuit. Well, they won the lawsuit, but they've never done the buses again. And when they shut these buses off, they had 150 people on a waiting list to go up there. So I mean, I'd love to see them do this again, and so the public can go up and visit them all.
Who would make that decision?
The county. they'd have to make a decision. I've been working with the Chamber of Commerce
The
and stuff.
supervisors,
Yeah, they could order it, yeah. It's the only, and like I say, I hiked up there one time, my grandson, now he's an adult, but we hiked up and we noticed this, a man and a woman hiking behind us about 150, 200 yards. We got up to the top, they came over and talked to us. They're from India. There are two doctors that are working out of San Jose, married, and they were here for a short time, and they said, did you know, as you were walking up, there's a big animal went across behind you? And I said, really, what did it look like? Because I know wildlife. And they said, oh, it stood about this long, and it had a long tail. It was a mountain lion.
Uh-oh.
And she said, it just went within 10 yards behind you in the woods. And so when we came down with them, we stopped there, and they showed us the paw marks. That was a mountain lion that stepped across there. So you got all kinds of stuff going on up there that it's just fascinating. And I really encourage anybody to go up there, that if you've never been up there. And it's not just the lake and the mountain that's got everything going. This whole, you look at this whole county, you know, one of my favorite people, and I've written stories about her, and I'll pass it around, was Frances Rupert. And I don't know if you've heard of her. If you know where Bartlett Springs Road is, goes up. Okay, if you go up like you're going to Bartlett Springs, there's Rupert Ridge. And it was named after her, and she came from Germany. Her family brought her over. She was a young woman, and she built a house up there by herself. And she couldn't stand people. And I hate to say this about anybody, but I guess she wasn't the best looking person in the world either. So this is when Bartlett Springs was in its heyday. And she had a couple cows and chickens, and she raised, had eggs and then had milk and cream, and she'd take it to with her horse, and actually she had a team of horses. It was a team. Her team consisted of a horse and a cow together as a team, and they'd go down into Bartlett Springs, and she'd sell the eggs and stuff like that, and the milk. Everybody'd been so mean to her whole life. She didn't have time for anybody. Well, she met a famous boxer called Jim Corbett. Which he was, if you look back, he's the only guy, world famous heavyweight boxer. He beat John L. Sullivan. Anyway, she trained here. He trained at Bartlett Springs. He loved it here. That's how he trained. He always treated her very kindly, and she fell in love with him. Of course, he didn't fall over her, but he was just polite with her and all this. And he was the only man that ever really talked nice to her, so she named him Gentleman Jim. That name stuck around the world after that. Even when he'd fight in Europe, he was known as Gentleman Jim Corbett. That came from her. She made one trip to Lakeport in her whole life. She came here because she filed for a homestead that was just, 60, 100 acres out of the next to her ranch, the place she had there. And she came back and she said, it's the most miserable people in my life I've ever seen in Lakeport. I'll never go back. And she never came back here. I can't imagine that. I never knew that Lakeport's always been a friendly group, you know. So, I mean, you just, like I say, and how they got here to Bartlett Springs is really interesting, because a lot of the tourists, they come out of San Francisco area and they take a ferry across to Sausalito. In those days, there was a railroad that ran up to Hopland, and at the old the old toll road, we call it, and I've been down it a million times. A stagecoach would pick them up, bring them to Clear Lake here. A boat would take them across to where the Bartlett Springs ranch is, Bartlett Springs area is, and then a stagecoach would pick them up there and take them into Bartlett Springs. It took like 2 days to make the trip. At one time, Bartlett Springs down there had over 5,000 people in it. They had 2 bowling alleys. They had a butcher shop and a big store, and plus the people that all that lived in it. It was one of the most popular places. And the reason it was because a guy named Bartlett bought it because the medicinal result of the spring water, the high soda content water, and so they started going up there to get cured of arthritis and everything else. And they just ended up liking it so much they just moved in there and lived there for years. Up till a few years ago, there was a guy that lived there. He was a good friend of mine. Of all the things at Bartlett Springs, they call him the mayor of Bartlett Springs. Of all things, his name was Zane Gray. But his last name, he spelled it G-A-Y, not G-R-E-Y, G-R-A-Y, not crazy like, and he would finally live there alone, him and his wife did, and he finally passed away about 5 years ago. He moved into Nice, I think it was there, because I knew his son was a fireman down at Marin County, and he was always he'd always say, why don't you get Dad to move out of there? Because it was so remote, that's a remote area to live there, you know, type thing. So, you know, you look at these people that lived in Lake County, and one of my favorite people in Lake County was Katie Richardson. And she died at 105 here, and she was born in Lakeport. And I did a series of stories for the newspaper from her. On her 100th birthday, she rode a motorcycle down Main Street. And she was a fascinating woman in the sense that she was very active. She, you know, and stuff. Her father was the first person ever killed in a car wreck in Lake County, and it was at the start of World War I. She was telling me the story that they had a biplane come in, a two-seater biplane, the government did, and they were selling war bonds to try to raise money. If you wanted to ride in a plane, you bought a war bond and it was going to land out here at Finley. There was only 1 or 2 cars in the whole county at that time. Well, the sheriff asked her father to help, because they had buggies then, and the horses, to help control the horses and stuff so they didn't rush the plane. Because half these people had never seen an airplane. She's telling me the story, which was fantastic. Anyway, everybody in the plane landed, and there was a lawyer that lived here and owned a roadster, big roadster, and he was kind of arrogant. But anyway, he come racing out there to look at the plane, and her father held his hand up to stop him. He ran right over the top and killed him. And she said, you know why he got away with it? And I said, no. He said, you didn't. He was a lawyer. Of course he got away with it. Which was funny at the time, you know. But she was a fantastic woman and stuff. And this woman here rode with her, when she was a little girl. Her dad drove the stagecoach on the Highland Springs Road, the old toll road, to bring the people in here and into Bartlett Springs. And then when cars became common, and Bartlett Spring was still going, they had the old Model A Fords and stuff, and they would pick up, the cars would pick them up on the far side of Bartlett Springs and drive up over the hill. Well, in those days, gas tanks were located right in front of the windshield, and they were called just gravity fed down to the carburetor. Well, they'd go up that hill and they'd run out of gas because they couldn't do it. So what they had to do, the cars all backed up the hill. And then they'd turn around and go down and down into Bartlett Springs. But you know, you just look at that. And then here, not too long ago, we had another guy that was Lake County well known. He moved away not too many years ago. Well, his name was Jesse James. He lived down here in Scotts Valley, and he invited me to his house here a while back. Oh, this was about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was raking leaves behind his barn, and there was a headstone laying there, and a beautiful headstone laying flat. And we looked at it, and there was named Crawford. It was I think a boy like 12 years old, buried in 1870 something in there. And I heard there was there used to be a district attorney in Lake County named Crawford, and then the family after that, they were lawyers. So I went and saw a friend of mine's lawyer here, and he knew all of the history of it. He didn't know about the boy dying though, because apparently the Crawfords had owned that. So we got a hold of the family down in San Francisco, and they wanted to know if they wanted the gravestone. They said no, they didn't want it. So it's still sitting out there laying flat. But I mean, you look at that, I mean, it's just, so everything in Lake County, you know, is just unbelievable when you look at old history here. And, you know, you look at the lake out here, and we have some of the most fabulous bird life in the world here. I talked back here, 12, 14 years ago, at least when the resort over Konocti Harbor Resort was open. They had a 3-day seminar called Lake Bed Management. It was nothing to do with the county's lake bed. It was nationwide. They had scientists, lake experts from scientists from around the world to come here. And I didn't realize it till I was talking to these guys, because they invited me to come to it, that how well Lake County, Clear Lake is known around the world. These were scientists from Europe and everything. They knew all about Clear Lake because they'd studied it. It's one of the most studied lakes in the world. Lake County is. It's a clear lake, which is just amazing because this lake is just phenomenal. When I give talks occasionally to at the Indian Beach Resort, and one of the things I do on a Thursday night, I make everybody go down on a dock and tell them to put their hand in the water and shake it. They're all not locals there. And I said, okay, you just shook your hand, the lake is 2 million years old, over 2 million years, and they can't believe it, you know, I mean, it's, and this is why we have to really, really preserve this lake on things, you know, I mean, because it's so special. And here last year, I was at the county park standing on a dock, and these 2 guys from India came, and they're standing there, and they said, can we ask you a question? I said, sure. They said, where's Clear Lake? I said, you're looking at it, it's right here. And I said, my God, we came all the way from India to see Clear Lake. And then they were going to drive, they asked me how you would drive all the way around the lake and just see this thing like this, you know. And like I say, and to me, the mountain, the mountain to me is so special up here. And when you get up to it, and the more you study it, and it's unbelievable. Like I say, they got 7 caves they know of up there.
Where are the caves?
They're located, there's some on Wright's Peak, there's 3 near Wright's Peak. And, by the way, on Wright's Peak, when you hike up there, you'll go by a plane wreck up there. An old plane, fuselage is laying up there. That was 1970, a guy and his daughter were coming from Del Norte County, flying over to the valley over there, in a light plane. And the storm hit, and they crashed in the mountain and killed both the guy and his daughter. And they removed the bodies in part, but the fuselage still sits there, and that's kind of neat too, to look at that. I mean, not the people that died, but I mean, I don't want them ever to remove that. You know, so, I mean, you just look at everything there, and like I say, and you can hike it. If a person gets up to hiking it, as long as you take your time. Actually, because I used to, when I worked for the federal government, I was a communications, in fact, I worked for the Federal Communications Commission. We inspected back in the 60s, inspected the radio stations up on top there, relay stations and stuff. So I'd driven up there many, many times through the years and stuff, and it always just nailed me. And I was talking here to the guy that works for the county, he runs the Lakeside County Park, and he takes prisoners up there to work on the roads. And it's rattlesnake heaven up there, I can tell you. And he gets these prisoners, he was telling, I guess it was like 2 years ago, he was telling this story about he had these prisoners up there, and he said, okay, now don't go off the road. They were doing work, he said, because there's rattlesnakes there. And they'd go off the road to do their thing, you know, because they have to relieve themselves. He said all of a sudden he heard this scream, and he went over, run over, and this guy's standing there off the road, right between his legs with a rattlesnake going up. And they got him out there. But I've seen rattlesnakes up there quite often. You even see deer up there and stuff like that to the top. But I can tell you this, it's much harder coming down than going up.
Really?
Because it's so steep coming down, your feet get tired coming down. Going up, you kind of just pace yourself, and you go along like that. So but you go up there once, you'll go up there again and again and again and again. You know, and you go up early in the morning, bring water with you, and stuff like this. I'd like to see the county do the buses again, because there's so many. The thing is, a lot of visitors to Lake County have money, but many of them are elderly, and it's a great tourist attraction for us to get those buses going up there again, for them to ride, because everyone I've talked to been up there are just overwhelmed with it, you know, stuff like this. And even visiting the lake itself, you know, we've got, I meet these people down at the county park and stuff, the bird watchers and stuff, and when Brad Barnwell does tours down at the county. Brad Barnwell, by the way, he's a local wildlife photographer, he's fantastic. Just to show you what this county has, last year they had a little tour of the county park alone, and I go there all the time. I'm always looking at birds. I'm not a bird expert like him. We finished that 2-hour deal, we had probably about 30 people. He cataloged 79 different species of birds in the county park. I said, my God, these were little guys this big that he's naming them off, he's writing them down. I said, who would think that in that county park? You got that. And right during the talk, he was standing out there at the end of the dock. this osprey started circling right in front of everybody and crashed into the water and grabbed a big old bass about this long. It flew to the tree and started eating it. Everybody applauded. And we all accused Brad of setting that up. You know, so I mean, you look at this, what we got here, and we got eagles. You know, we got wildebeest. I'm getting all the calls now about all the wildlife in this county now. A woman called me here about 4 or 5 days ago, and she lives in a Riviera with all those homes there, and a bear's been sleeping in her backyard. And she gets, every morning she gets up, it's laying there, and she yells at it, and all it does is stand up, look at her, and lay back down again. So it blows her mind, you know, and stuff like that. And then last fall, when the deer, you know, when bucks go and rut, they get kind of mean. A guy driving up the Riviera through the house, and he saw this great big buck standing in the middle of the road. He stopped and got out of his car to look at it and charged him. He jumped back in the car and slammed the door, and it raked the whole side of his car with its horns. And he drove down to, I met him here in Lakeport, and he showed me this car, it's all just raked with that buck. So, and then you'll probably remember like 2 years ago when the bear walked through period, you know, 18 and 1900. The bear, female and his cub walked right down past all the houses and climbed up and disappeared. And then about 8, 9 years ago, at Kmart at 9 in the morning, when all the people were coming in to shop, a mountain lion walked all the way across the parking lot. And everybody, hundreds of people saw that, and they walked up to the freeway and went over the top. I mean, where else did we see stuff like that except Lake County when you look at this? It's just so unusual as wildlife we have here. And this is why we've got to really, really protect all what we have here, because once it's gone for forever, you know. So
I know when we had the real bad drought, we live in East, we were at Wadman Slough, and the water was way out. It was bone dry, not bone dry. It was
you mean 76, 77?
No, a couple years ago.
Oh, just a couple years ago.
And
okay.
we could have walked Upper Lake from East because of like that, but there was a lot of bear track out there too, so we could just.
Well, a woman called me last year that lives on one of the last houses up in Nice. She lives alone up there. Well, no, her husband's a captain of a commercial ship, and he's gone all the time, you know, and traveling around the world. But she had a mountain lion that sleep every night by her pool, by her swimming pool. And she'd lay there and she'd look at it. And then the funniest thing is last year during a bass tournament, which was hilarious, this guy told me about it. He was in the tournament, and the temperature was like 105. He was fishing, you know where Shag Rock is down at the Narrows there in that steep canyon. They were along the shoreline, and here comes this, they heard this crash, and it was so hot. This bear come running down the hill, jumped out in the water, rolled over on its back, and went, ugh. And then swam back ashore and went up in the hills. The guy was not from here. And he said, my God, you see this all the time in Lake County. It's unbelievable, you know. So, and of course, you know, you all know this about all the entrepreneurs. You remember when they were going to build a tram up to the mountain? They were going to have a resort up there, and the tram was going to come out by the lake here, which never came into being. And I always liked to. A few years ago, or a number of years ago, I wrote a story on April Fool's Day. It was just a fun story. I like to do that for the record beat. About the new world record bass have been caught. They claim a world record bass is going to be worth $1 million to the community and stuff like this. We even doctored up the picture and showed this big bass. And we said it was caught at Highland Springs, the reservoir. We had all these calls, and I also put in the article that the sheriff's going to build a 10-story hotel there now, at the hotel in the Highland Springs Reservoir. And I got all these calls about when do we think the hotel's going to start hiring people. You know, and I also put in there, they were going to put you've all been to Highland Springs, we were going to put a 100-boat marina there. Well, that wouldn't you even get a 100-boat marina in there. So, you know, you look at stuff like that. But that, anyway, that's part of, you know, Lake County and being fun in Lake County and stuff like that. But you know, and I look back at even our old timers that lived here. A good friend of mine was Jerry Hendricks, that lived here for years, and the Hendricks Road's named after his family. And he was up on a deer hunting trip when he shot his arm off. He was getting off his horse, he was like, come on, and the gun went off and shot it here, and the arm was just hanging there, and they laid it, and they had Dr. Craig was a doctor here then, and they got a hold of him, and he jumped on a horse and rode up there, and brought Jerry down, and he ended up cutting his arm off in the end. But I mean, they carried him down on his horse. He was conscious all this time. He was telling me about that. And I thought, God, this is, you know, the real old, this is our pioneers of Lake County. That's why we have such strong families here, because all this goes back, and they were strong families. When you look at what they did and what they accomplished, I mean, I can't even envision what life is. And this is why I tell people, like you all people, is to travel around and visit the county some. I mean, you can just, I've been here for years, I'll drive around the lake just to look at things, again, because everything's never the same, you know, and it's, and one other, and I'll have a few more stories. We had a guy here, Don MacGyver, who lived here for years, and he was one-armed, and he used to drive race boats out here, and he got in a wreck, a race boat, and lost his arm, and owned by Nice, and they pulled him in the shore, and he was laying there, and they put a tourniquet on, and he was still conscious, all this, and they had, at that time, they had an ambulance service here called Redwood Empire Ambulance Service. It was not part of the fire department, it was independent. They called him, and the guy pulled up, well, I guess whoever the medic was, and he jumped out, ran over to Don, looked at him, and then the blood started shooting out. The guy passed out, the medic passed out. A bunch of guys threw him in the ambulance, the guys themselves, and they headed for Ukiah, because we only had a little hospital then, where the sirens go, and they left the medic laying there on the ground at the Cistern boat ramp. But he was an old timer, you know, this was he lived here all his life. So I mean, you know, I just look at these, like I say, and when you get out on the lake, now for a while I had an underwater camera, which was just fascinating to go out and look on the bottom of this lake. And you see everything. I had it one time in about, golly, 3/4 of a mile off Skylark Motel, there's a refrigerator on the bottom. How it ever got there, I have no idea. Laying on its side, on its back with the door open. You can see it just clear as a bell. And then a friend of mine, R.C. Stevens, he lives in Clear Lake Oaks, 5, 6 years ago, he found near Anderson Island a Model A Ford convertible in the bottom with a rumble seat out there, and it's been there forever because it's all silted in and stuff like that. And he's gone back and looked at it several times. And how they got there? I mean, how that thing got there? We don't know. And so the bottom of this lake is full of stuff. And then.
Isn't there also an airplane, a World War II plane?
Yeah, there is a World War II plane out there too.
Where is that located?
I don't know where that is actually. But the other one, a guy, this was 8, 10 years ago, he was fishing for catfish off Nice there, and he felt something, he pulled it up and a guy's leg came off. It was a guy that had committed suicide, and they'd been looking for him. And he left a note, and of course, he called the sheriff, and they came and got the body, which is...
Do you remember the story about that weird fish that was caught once? This is probably about 20 years ago.
I wrote the story.
Oh, okay.
I got to tell you what, this guy, his name was Lyle Dyson. He lived at Edgewater Resort, okay? And he lived in a big travel trailer there, been there forever. And, he took and he was fishing for catfish, and he caught this weird looking catfish. And it had a flat head, like a puppy head on it. And instead of the tail being like this, it was flat. And instead of the pectoral fins being out, it had like 2 little legs on it. And so he called me, and I went down there and I took pictures of it for the paper, had it. And what he did was, he carved his puppy's initials in the head.
Oh, gross.
He loved that dog and let it go. And we took that picture, and I got to tell you, that thing never was caught again. It weighed about 15 pounds. It was a big catfish. And so it was, and it turned out when I got talking to biologists, it was just a genetic mistake, you know, it was not, but we called it the monster secret, Clear Lake catfish. We had calls, so many calls to the newspaper of people that were seeing big catfish like this. You know, I had called about people disappearing in the lake because the catfish were eating them. And all kinds of things like this. And one guy called me after that. He was in a big like a 25-foot big boat. He said he hooked into a catfish and out in the middle of the lake, and it towed him all the way to the dam. He cut the rope finally at the dam because he didn't want to go to the dam. But which was all just stories, of course, you know. But yeah, that still is that. And Dial, he was a character. He passed away here a number of years ago. But he was kind of a real quiet guy. He became a world celebrity because they ran that in the New York Times. That picture, they ran it all over. And he always dressed in a pair of old jeans and a shirt, you know, ruffled shirt. After that, I'd see him downtown in stores, so he had a suit and a tie on. And stuff all the time. No, it was yeah, that was the mysterious Catfish. We still have pictures on that. I still have a picture of that thing. But it was just one of these weird looking things. So we've heard of these monsters in the lake, a lot of it, you know. I mean, that's always been because the lake is so old.
Yeah.
And you know, we do have a lot of wildlife in the lake. We have otters in the lake, and you know, they're really neat. We have mink in the lake. We see them all the time. Not counting all the birds, you know. My favorite bird on the lake is a pelican. One of my favorites. And you've all seen those come across that lake like this, you know. And they all fly in unison, you know, and stuff like this. And they're just fascinating. And my other favorite is probably the osprey, and then the eagle, and both eagles, the bald eagle and the golden eagle. We have both here. And the golden eagle there was just 2 years ago, he's a retired biologist, Jack Booth, out of Ukiah, and he was up here at Cow Mountain. He was actually right on the Lake County side. He was doing Audubon photos for Audubon for bird count day. And a golden eagle attacked a deer, a full-grown deer, and he got pictures of it. And he said the deer was laying down with a big set of horns on. And he took a series because he was a deer expert. That's what his career was. And it showed this golden eagle coming down. He had about 10 pictures. And at the last minute, the claws were out, and they grabbed that deer right behind the neck. And the deer got up and ran off and shook him off. But I thought, my God, you know, that's really something. And a golden eagle, you know, they'll take rabbits and stuff like this. And like I say, that's why I like about being a writer, because I get all the calls. I got a call just 2 weeks ago on the edge of Lakeport, because you know we have coyotes all around here. We hear them yell at night. And this guy said he heard this scream at 9 o'clock, and about 9 o'clock at night, he ran out in the backyard, turned the light on, and he had a fence around the backyard with, you know, all like that. And he had his big dog in the backyard, and the dog had his head through the fence and was screaming. He ran around, and a coyote had him by the nose. Oh. And was shaking it like this, and he got up, and he finally kept throwing rocks at the coyote. He finally got around town and hit the coyote with a rock. He finally let the dog go. And, you know, so you have these wild. And the other thing now they're telling me is vector control people, because they're out there spraying too. They're seeing foxes, gray foxes everywhere now. They're all over the edge of town here, in town. And a lot of people don't know it, but a gray fox can climb a tree just like a squirrel. They've got a claw on the back. It's opposite. A red fox can't, but they can go right up. And I've watched them on my neighbor, a friend of mine, he lives right there at Burger King, and he has them around there all the time. We sat out there in the backyard here last year and watched the family fox go all the way to the top of the tree and come all the way down. And I think that is so neat to see that, you know, for them. And the other thing we have, a lot of people don't realize it, we have a lot of bobcats here. They're very common here, you know, stuff. It's like I say, we've got everything. If you ever, and of course, you know, we have, now that the elk are back here again, we have a lot of elk in the country. And those elk were actually brought in here. Originally, Thule elk, Lake County was native to them. It was a native animal, you know, hundreds of years ago. And then they disappeared, they got hunted out and whatever. And they brought some over from Lake Grizzly Island over by Fairfield and replanted them here, and they're just flourishing everywhere now. Like when you go to Highway 20 to Williams and see those elk along the road, those are called Thule elk. And the reason is from the tules in the lake. They actually would walk out and feed in these tules in the lake, and they were called Thule elk. So they're very, very, very common now. They made a huge comeback. So we're getting more wildlife back here again for people to see and stuff like this. And but I'm amazed. We have a woman at Hannah does tours on the lake in a pontoon boat, and for wildlife, and she does a pretty good business. I'm so surprised she goes out of Lakeport here. I'm surprised there's not more of those, because I would think it'd be fantastic to you know, have a person along that can talk about the lake and
Who is it?
identify the birds. But,
What's the name of the business?
Isn't it Eyes of the Wild?
yeah, wild.
Yeah, Eyes of the
Yeah,
Wild.
yeah. And it's very popular with people who go on it. And I don't know what the cost is. It's like, should go out for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever you want to go out, stuff like that. And I'd like to see, to me, for this county, my feeling is tourism is the lifeblood of the county. You know, I mean, it's one of the lifeblood. I know we have the wines. My daughter's in the wine business, and Santa Rosa and Lake County is her territory, but I still think tourism to me is, I think we've got to push that and stroke that to get more of them in here, because it's a clean industry. You know, I mean, and I talk to people all the time, like in a park down here and stuff. They're just amazed at this lake. They look out across this lake and they say, my God, how do you guys do this, live here like this? You know, I mean, it's fantastic. And I just met a guy last week at the lake at Coyotes. He just bought a house here, him and his wife. He was born in San Francisco. He was a guy in his 70s. And he inherited the house originally that him and his wife had lived. His mother died, left him the house in San Francisco. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. He said, just a regular home. To show you the difference of cost of living, he's renting that house out in San Francisco now because he bought one here. That's going to be his retirement income. He gets $1,400 a month rent.
That's cheap.
Cheap, that's really
That's
No,
cheap.
$4,500. I'm sorry. $4,500 a month. And when he advertised it, he had like 10 people want it right now.
In San Francisco, yeah. I don't know if you're gonna get to this, but I had a question about the article in the paper today about the quagga mussels.
Yes.
There was one spot on the map where they said they've eradicated them, either that or the zebra, I don't remember which.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah, it's very small body of water. The quagga mussel is now our big thing in the county, and the county's got we have got the best quagga mussel program in the state of California, in the West, for example. And right now, the county's done a fantastic job, and we don't. This lake is perfect for the quagga mussel because it has high calcium. It's everything they want. Quagga mussel come from the Ukraine originally, and how it got in the United States was, and I did a bunch of research because I wrote a story for Nature magazine on it, that these ore ships from the Ukraine would come over to the Midwest, you know, like Lake Erie and them, and pick up iron ore and take it back for smelters. Okay, on the way over from the Ukraine to here, they're empty, but they have to fill their tanks with ballast water to make it stable. There's a law, the United States has a law that they will dump their ballast tanks 3 miles out to sea before they come here. And they ran this down through a DNA thing, because one skipper didn't do it. And he went all the way into Lake Erie and dumped it, and then he decided he had to dump it to take on ore, and it had quagga mussels in it.
Oh,
And that's how it got started in the United States here, and in America. But see, in Ukraine, they've had them for thousands of years. They got natural enemies. We don't have that. They've got, in fact, and they've spread now. They spread by people hauling boats back and forth across and stuff like this. And they've Lake Mead is where they really are heavy in Lake Mead. In fact, how they found them in Lake Mead was kind of strange, because they had a group of the University of Nevada students studying biology where they were looking for native clams in Lake Mead, and so they dove down around one resort there, and when they were diving there for the clams, they found all these looked like clams on ropes from the docks. And they took those off, took them out, collected some of them, sent them to a lab, and they come back and they were quagga mussels. And that's how they didn't even know they were in Lake Mead. And what they do is a quagga mussel feeds on zooplankton and phytoplankton, and they're a filter feeder. These mussels are no bigger than your fingernail, thumbnail at the biggest on it. That one quagga mussel will filter over a quart of water through it in a day, 24 hours. So when you multiply these by billions when they're in these lakes, what the end result is, the water gets extremely clear, but the downside is there's no food for the fish, because a lot of people don't understand this, when fish are hatched, little ones like this, for the first, till they get about 3 inches long, they feed on phytoplankton. If you go, I've been to vector control time, they'll bring it up on a screen to show you what a phytoplankton looks like. And they're little creatures swimming around, they pick them off. And then once they get to be 2 or 3 inches long, then they switch to bugs and stuff like this. Well, if these quagga mussels get in here, and like I say, they've never really recorded any lake of any size where they've got away, where they've eradicated them, the lakes get crystal clear. The second thing that happens is that they collect on, right now we have 17 water companies around the lake, I believe, and they draw the water up for communities, and they have screens. They claim like they're doing it in Lake Erie now, and those lakes there. Each water company has 3 pumps, and they take 2 of them down all the time to clean the screens while the third one pumps. It costs millions of dollars, and that's what would happen here if they got in here. We'd never get rid of them.
You said that was a small body of water where they eradicated them. What did they do?
Well, I don't, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what to do. They're right now working on a deal that will, a chemical that will kill them, but it'll be years and years and years before that ever comes into being on it. You know, and they, county right now, part of Mussel Group, they've got a boat that they brought in from Lake Mead. They took a boat from here, took it to Lake Mead and sunk it, and let it sit there for, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks or something like this. And then they brought it out, and it was full of quagga mussels. And they wrapped it in plastic, and they bring it down, and they're gonna have it at the fair here, and places like that, where people can look at how dangerous it is on it. So our program, there's no county in California that's got a program as good as Lake County has. I mean, these people are so good at it. And what happened was originally when we acquired the quagga mussel sticker, God, we got all kinds of heat from the public on that, but now they've accepted it. And the other thing is, one reason, and what I tell people coming in, there's no other lake in California the size of this where you have free boat launch. I mean, we got our free boat launches here, and we don't want ever that to change, because that's a draw. To launch a boat at Berryessa per day is like $25. Quagga mussel here, sticker costs $20 a year. So that's really cheap for, you know, for us to have that for security. And we want to, and that's why we want to be really, really careful of them and not get them, because in the Ukraine, they have natural predators. They have a guppy fish that eats them. They have and they have a duck that eats them, and it's called a scalp. And we have scalp actually here in Clear Lake every year. But they've, over the years, these scalp have evolved. They're the primary eaters. They're immune to the toxin the mussel puts out. At the Great Lakes there, where the quagga mussel, zebra mussel, where they're very close relatives started, those ducks started feeding on them or dying by the thousands because they're too toxic for their system. So it's a very serious thing. And like I say, we've got a fantastic program. This Mark Miller
How do they
runs it.
monitor that everyone?
Well, what they do here is there's a couple ways the county does it. One, they have ramp monitors that inspect the boats and make sure, and they find out where this boat came from. Before this, they can get a quagga mussel sticker here. They have to fill out a form and they say, where'd you come from? And if it's been in Lake County all this time and the address is here, they have no problem because we don't have the mussel here. So they'll give them a sticker. But if he says I come from Lake Mead or something like that, they send them over and the county inspects it. They have a very tight inspection, and they also have a decontamination process where they put steam and chemicals on that boat to kill any mussel that's there.
But can they stop someone from just bypassing the entire process?
Well, they actually have a fine. If you get caught on the lake without a sticker, it's a $100 fine by the boat patrol. So it's pretty well complied with right now. They're not having much problem with anybody in it. You know, yeah, look at these mussels, and it's if we could find some way for people to eat them, it'd probably do them in.
Feed them
Shouldn't they inspect
cyanobacteria.
your boat before they sell you a sticker?
Yes, they do what they do is they do a screening and an inspection.
Twice.
No, what they do, if you live here and you show that your boat stays here, And they do a lot of, what they do a lot of too is public volunteer of not doing it. In other words, you theoretically could live here, get a sticker, take your boat to Lake Mead and come back again and do it. But we count on the people saying, and we've had very good cooperation from the citizens of Lake County that they don't want the mussel here. So you should, if you do that, you should have your boat inspected again. And the good part is, what I really like is the county started this free decontamination. It doesn't cost you anything. And I hope we keep that, because it doesn't, take you over 15 minutes later, they decontaminate your boat even if it's got the mussel, and you go put it in the water. If you had to pay for it, then people try and get around it.
Yeah.
And so we want to keep that going, and that's, like I say, what's got me this, what I don't like about, not our system here, is that Mendocino County and these other counties don't have a system like us. They go to Lake Berryessa with no problem, you know, it's Napa County and stuff. They fill a little form out and say, yeah, I didn't do this or that, but there's no inspections process set up like we have. I'd like to see these other counties come in here and look at ours, for example, on it, because it's very serious. The other thing we have on this lake here, of course, is our weeds. And right now, the state has done a fantastic job controlling hydrilla. They only find 1 or 2 plants a year here. I just talked to them. We had I sit on the Fish and Wildlife Committee here, and we had a hydrilla crew from the state here at the meeting on Monday night, Tuesday night. And they told us that, yeah, they haven't found a plant this year. Because at one time they were all over here. And we don't want the hydrilla plants in here at all. So that's just part of keeping our lake clean and beautiful.
You want to talk about the cyanobacteria, and is that something new, and why is it here?
No, cyanobacteria has been here forever, actually. And now they just discovered this last week or next week. Carol Rattan was telling us that they've now got, there's a new algae just starting to form here. But they know about it. It's been here for a long time. It just hasn't bloomed like it is now. It's starting to bloom now. But you know, when you go back, Greg Giusti, a good friend of mine, he went to the University of California. Nobody knows this lake like he does. This lake, believe it or not, you've always heard the gripes about the algae and stuff like this. This lake is clearer than it's been in the last 50 years. They do what they call Selkie discs, and Vector Control does it. It's a round white disc on it with a weight. It's got little black marks on it. They lower it with a rope, and on that rope is 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot marks on it. When it disappears, they mark that down, and they can tell actually how the clarity of the water is. 30 years ago, we got a chart. I have a chart at home on it. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, water clarity is like this. Now it's down like this. That chart is just going down, 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 down. So this lake is actually clear. But there's a bad side of that too.
The weeds.
The weeds. The weeds grow like crazy. Because you know, when you look at this lake, I can remember back in the 60s when I'd come up here in stuff, 70s, a boat would go across the lake, and some of the old timers remember the green wakes that it put out really out in the middle. Now it doesn't do it except around little areas that will do it.
Well, why has it gotten clearer?
Because one thing is that what's happened is that there's less stuff coming in the lake than it was that causes algae, because it's very fertile and stuff like this. And so that's what's happening here. That's mainly through it. And so the loading of the lake, they call it the loading, of the lake is dropping down. So this lake is actually, the only, like I say, the downside is though, what happens is when sunlight penetrates, it goes to the bottom and makes weed grow. Weeds have to have sunlight to grow. And so when the lake was real green, there was hardly any weeds. Originally, you know, you look at 40, 50 years ago, all there were around this lake was the tules. You saw no floating weed bats. Now you see the floating weed bats on it. So it's a big difference.
You brought up my next question. I have a friend who's got some tules, 2 patches right in front of her. She lives on the lake. And she wants them to expand.
Okay.
So if someone wanted tules, how do you get them? Or
They
what's the
plant.
process?
Okay, they have done this. They take tules out of it. You say, let's say this is all tules here. They'll take out roots out and replant them.
Is there a company that does that, or you just have to know
I don't know of a
somebody?
company, but you have to be cleared. You have to clear it through water resources.
In the county?
in the
Okay.
county on it. And the same way with spraying, by the way, that's the other thing too. Spraying for weeds. Okay, because we got weeds around the docks. The county right now is under a program that's very effective. They're clearing out from boat ramps out to the middle of the lake, you know, spraying and stuff. And also a channel around, like Lakeshore Boulevard, they'll do it outside the docks. People that live there on the lake can get a permit from the county and they'll hire a sprayer to come and kill the weeds right around their docks and stuff like this. So they do have a program to control the weeds in that sense. So but like I said, originally there were no weeds like this. We had no surface weeds. And that's how this thing had changed. I mean, it's just look at everything changing out there. So, yeah.
What's going on in the reclamation of
Okay,
the
yeah,
filter lands?
we're trying to buy that, the reclamation district. Originally, see, past Rodman Slough up there, you know, I mean, that big area where they actually have homes now, and they're buying up the homes. And originally, you go back hundreds of years ago, that was the filter for water coming into Clear Lake, because it flowed through the tules. The tules are a fantastic filter for runoff in the lake. And now then they close that all down, they put levees in there. They're gonna break down the levees when you get all the land bought, and that will now become what they call wetlands.
I don't know where you're talking about.
Okay, you have Upper Lake there, you know.
Yeah.
If you look at where the Robinson Rancheria is, the casino, you know where the gas station is, and you look towards the lake from that, you'll see way out there, that's,
Yeah.
you'll see part of that. And that's another thing, you know, too, I like, my favorite thing is Rodman Slough. I love that. You go up there in a boat, it's like you're going in the Okefenokee, and there's birds up there, everything up there. And it's such a neat place to go to, just to see animals.
It's amazing.
Isn't it? It's just amazing on that. And there's hiking trails up there, you know. And one other thing I'm gonna talk about real quick, like, and then I'll let you go to your question. One of my favorite places on this lake is the state park. And a lot of people don't know this. This state park last year was voted 5th best in the nation.
Wow.
Number 1 west of the Mississippi.
Wow.
And what they looked at was they looked at fishing places you can fish, which they have, beauty, which it has, friendliness of staff, which it has, campground, and they rated all that, and no other, like I say, no other place even came close to this when you look at this. I think that's a huge plus for Lake County. I'd like to see us really advertise that part, because we're 5th, and people, I go to the state park just about every day, take my little dog for a walk down there because I enjoy it so much. The people you meet, the people I meet from other areas are just amazed at that state park. And what I like about the state park is because they patrol it really well, it's well managed. It's a great place for women, don't go hiking because it's safe for them, you know, I mean, there's nobody's gonna bother them, they can hike the trails, hike the road. And you see a lot of women in there with their little dogs hiking and stuff, and they feel comfortable and safe in there. Because they have patrol people who drive by all the time, and I think that's really a plus for this county. And the campgrounds are beautiful in there. I mean, they keep a tight rein on, there's no bunch of drunks raising Cain and stuff like this, they won't allow it. And it's a gorgeous place to visit. But what surprises me, I'm surprised at the number of people, residents of Lake County, that never go there, have never been there, you know.
Well, it costs $8 to get in.
Yeah, it costs $8.
Yeah,
You
that's
bet
a lot
if
of
you-
money for a day.
Yeah, well, what you do and I do on that is I buy a yearly pass for $110.
If you can afford that, yeah.
And you gotta remember, it's not this state park's fault, the state park fee is the same at all state parks. In other words, actually, your pass is good for if you had a yearly pass to go to another state park. They don't set the rates there. So it's nothing to do that, yeah.
What I'm intrigued about is, like, you were talking about Bartlett Springs, Saratoga Springs, Highland Springs, Blue Lakes, how they were all connected back. They must have all been, or so how does that all affect with the volcano or any of that?
Yeah, Highland Springs actually is a man-made reservoir. There was always a spring there,
Okay.
but there wasn't a dam there. And originally there was a hotel there way back then
Right.
because of the spring water gave, had medicinal purposes on that.
'Cause, yeah.
And I gotta tell you another, I love little stories like this. You know the toll road that goes on, you know who used to go on that road? Black Bart. Remember Black Bart? He lived in Ukiah, actually. He did several holdups of stages on Highland Spring Road, on that road.
Well, what happened to Bartlett Springs?
Bartlett Spring finally just, they had the Bartlett Spring Water Company up to not too many years ago, right there at Highway 20 and the Bartlett Springs Road, and they bring water out. As far as the problem with the resort, why it didn't make it after Clear Lake got really settled with the resort, it was just too remote to go to and stuff like that, and it was just very difficult to get in there and out.
It seems like all the resorts burned down.
Yeah,
Most of the old resorts just burned.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I look at and then I look even, in Lake County, look at Cobb. I mean, even though it burned, it's gorgeous around Cobb there, I mean, my God, in the Hidden Valley and stuff like that. And so we've got a lot going for this county. I mean, we are the poorest county in the state, but
Not quite, I thought we were.
no, we're not. I just went to a meeting and this was
I thought
discussed.
we were a couple up.
No, we are the poorest county in the state. I sit on the Sutter Hospital Advisory Committee, and they brought that up on a deal on Monday night, last Monday, we're the poorest county in the state. But,
Regarding the bus up Mount Konocti, what's in the
What's the
in the
hold?
way? What's the whole,
well, I don't know, I'm trying to get the county to answer
It
me on
seems like that would add revenue and.
Well, yeah,
Aren't the Fowlers?
no, they've got the permission now. I think the problem is the county don't want to get, and I'm guessing here, don't want to get in the commercial business of running of buses, but I say if that's okay, I can understand that, then let's open it up for bids.
Exactly.
Because a private company would jump on that in a minute to take people up there. I mean, you'll charge $15 or whatever for the trip up, and they run 2 or 3 trips a day. I mean, you had to, because I went up there and checked it, you had to, when the buses were running, you just didn't go up there and get on a bus, they were full. You'd take 3 or 4 days to get on a bus. That's how popular they were. I mean, they were fantastic. And when they take you up the mountain, they would take and walk up to the fire tower. You have that fire lookout tower. They take you to the top of that. You could see everything. I mean, it's a plus, because the trouble in Lake County is this: is the visitors coming in here, most of them that have the money are elderly people, and physically they can't do a lot of that. But they're actually the people we want in the county spending our money, and they love to do that, and it just isn't feasible for them. A lot of them will drive to the parking lot. I see up there, because I go up there quite often, and I'll see them there, but they'll say, "Gee, we just can't make the walk up there," and I can understand that too. So I mean, but I'd love to see that opened up again. And it was so popular when it was running. There's no reason that it wouldn't be popular again. My other complaint, I got to say, and I love Lake County, is we're our own worst enemy when it comes to advertising for the county outside. And I travel around a lot, and a lot of people don't understand what's even here in Lake County. We need I think that
poorly promoted.
yeah, we got such a great county. Once people get here, they love it. 3 weeks ago, I was at the state park in the evening there, and where the swim beach is, and they have those tables. And I was there, and there was 2 tables filled with people. And one was from Denmark, and the other family was from Australia. And they just happened to hit here. They hadn't heard about it at all. And they were looking at the mountain. They said, "God, this is fantastic." They were just overwhelmed with the beauty of the county and stuff like this. And they just happened to be driving through separately and heard about it and drove over to it. So I mean, so we've got the resources here, and so.
Could you talk a little bit about, I understand that through the middle of the lake there is a quake line.
Yes.
A fault line.
Yes.
And then I understand there is one running someplace around Lakeport. And would that perhaps be around the Esplanade?
No,
I'm just curious where it is, because when we have quakes, we live right on the lake. Boy, and that last one at 3.4 wasn't funny. We really felt it through
well, first
3
off,
stories.
you got to remember, Clear Lake is like a frying pan with 2 handles. Is the way I call it when I talk about the lake. Here is the big part of the frying pan, and then the two handles are the Oaks arm and the Clear Lake arm down there. And the deep water's down in that area. Shallow water's up here. The average depth up here in the middle of the lake, if you drew a line from here to Nice and went in the middle, most time it'd be about 8 to 10 feet, 12 feet. Sometimes in winter, when we get to higher water, it gets up to 15, 20 feet on it, which is one other thing I want to bring up too. And I don't know, I know about the one in the middle of the lake, and I haven't really heard a lot about the other one you're talking about. But now everybody knows about the Rumsey gauge. Do you know how it got there? Okay, how it was there was Captain Rumsey back in the 1800s, lived here, and it was funny because he's the one that Rumsey Bay is named after him right here. And he decided he wanted to measure this lake. This was before there was a dam here even, to measure the depth of the lake. So he, down there at the Gripsy Riffle, where the water goes out down towards Cache Creek, he noticed that when the lake got to zero, I mean, he didn't know it's zero then, when the lake ceased to flow over the water, ceased to flow over the Gripsy Riffle, he thought that's kind of right, because then the lake stopped the outflow. So he thought, okay, I'm going to make this zero Rumsey. He wanted a name for himself. And if it gets above it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Below zero, 1, 2, minus 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so he did. When he figured that one out, he said, yeah, but he says, I don't want to. I want it here because he was living in Lakeport actually. So they put the Rumsey gauge right where vector control is now, just off Esplanade there. And but they made equivalency. So zero Rumsey on the gauge at vector control is not no water. It doesn't. There's still water under that, but it's equivalent to what zero Rumsey is on the Griffith Dam. Well, I wanted to figure out who this Captain Rumsey was because he's well known. And so I went to the museum even, and I said, did he own a ship on this lake? No. I said, never heard of that. Nobody knew what he was a captain of. I thought, was he in the military? No. So there's a town of Rumsey down here on Highway 16. I knew that was native. So I drove down there and I started knocking on doors, identifying somebody. I said, I'm looking for somebody that's related to the Rumsey family. This one woman, she said, go down such and such and such, and there's a family. That is the Rumsey family. So I went and knocked on their door and I said, this is going to be silly. And I introduced myself as I'm doing a story of Captain Rumsey. I said, everybody wants to know, what was he a captain of? And they started laughing. He drove cattle from California to Washington, and he was a trail boss. Trail bosses, we call him captain in those days. So, and he just kept the name after he quit driving cattle. So that's how the Captain Rumsey, that's how the Rumsey gauge started with him, is right there. It's one of the very few lakes in the United States that uses a gauge similar to this.
Now that we have the dam, do we not have zero Rumsey?
Oh yeah, we have zero Rumsey. In fact, the old...
Meaning no water going over the riffle? Because I kayak there and it's never been so low that I couldn't kayak.
Well, actually, what happens is, it's where it ceased to flow. Now, the riffle had changed a little bit because they tried to dynamite it many years ago, and then the courts ruled against them. And actually, see, Yolo County, you know, the old controversy on Yolo County owning the water and the lake and stuff. Well, according to the decree now, Yolo County, when the lake is full at 7.56 on the Rumsey gauge, Yolo County can take down to a +1 zero. I mean, they can never take it below zero, okay? If it's below, down like say 5 or something, this is of May 1st. At May 1st, then there's a formula they use that allows them to take less water. And actually, Yolo County does own the water, because what happened was how Yolo County got the water was these were some very smart farmers down below at Cache Creek. They were using water coming out of the lake, and they thought, you know, this is back in the turn of the century. And they thought, you know, this isn't going to end. We got to put a claim. So they put a claim in for the water. The state owns the lake actually, not the county. Well, anyway, so the state came to Lake County and they said, do you have any objection to Yolo County getting so much water? Well, there's only very few people around the lake at that time. They said, nah, we got all the water we need. Let them have it. And of course, and then Lake County challenged that in the 30s to went to the Supreme Court and ruled against them. So actually, that's why Yolo County still has the water coming out of the lake. Actually, Yolo County owns all the water flowing into the lake. I mean, if you have a farm up here and have a pond at the farm, that would normally flow down here in the watershed, Yolo County, that's their water. They don't bill you, but they literally could.
Okay, so back to the first part of my question.
Yeah.
Right now,
Mm-hmm.
water always flows.
Yeah, because
over-
we're at 6.5 feet.
Right. But that's because we have the dam, because you're saying
Yeah.
he would go there and there
Well,
would
yeah.
be no water
Yeah,
flowing.
yeah, because during the winter though, before the dam was here, that, if you go down, and I've been down that narrow, it's so narrow, the water cannot flow out as fast as it can flow into the lake.
Yeah, that I know about.
So that's how it got up to these heights. But it's, yeah, so it's just another interesting bit of history for Clear Lake. Well, okay, I guess
I
that,
have a
yeah.
question that relates to the lake in a little different way. Rice flies.
Yes,
Do
oh
you know
my God.
anything about them?
Okay.
A couple of questions to start with. I live right on the lake.
You mean Clear, we call it the Clear Lake Gnat too. It's
Yeah.
also right.
And
fly.
they're amazing, how much debris they can make with their little
Yep.
tiny bodies. And I wonder, are those eggs or is that excrement that?
No, it's
all those
actually,
little
yeah,
black?
I think it's part of the excrement. What happened was when, years ago, I can remember in the 60s here, if you drove a car around Highway 20, they'd be so thick you couldn't get them off your windshield. They just stuck on there. And people couldn't sit in their backyard out there on the lake because they were just massive. They don't bite. They were just there, they just clouds of them. So what they did was, that's how, we have a minnow in the lake called the silver side minnow. They brought those in to eat the rice flies or Clear Lake gnat. And they also in those days sprayed the lake with DDT. And so that killed a lot of the birds. So then they outlawed the
The
DDT.
swallows eat a lot of them.
The swallows are an interesting bird because they only feed on flying insects. And do you know where the swallows come from? You see them all over your docks and stuff making that? They fly nonstop from South America.
They're amazing.
Yeah. Can you imagine a little bird that small flies nonstop and feeds along the way, nonstop? I look at that. I like them myself.
I love the swallows.
Tell everybody, the library has Destination Magazine, which tells you all kinds of things, where to stay, where to eat, places to go. We have plenty on the back table. Anybody you know who visits, get them one. And businesses can have them. So we have lots of boxes of them here. So.
And they're free.
Yeah, they're free.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
And one thing real quick, like people like do, what's getting popular on the lake is kayaking. I mean, I see more kayaks than I've ever seen before now. People love it out there. Because the reason is you can approach the birds so close. Like the graves, famous graves, you get right up on them and watch them. And,